Hello, friends. Good morning. We are going to start our session now. So, on behalf of Democratic Research Scholars Organization, I, Muhammad Asif, would like to welcome you all to today's Scholars Convention. Good morning, everyone. As you all know, that scholars community is facing immense crisis at all fronts. DRSO has been a fighting force on all fronts, fighting this battle on all fronts since 2012. Today's convention is another attempt to save the cause. Scholars from different universities have come to join us in the offline mode at this center, and a couple of scholars will join from abroad, uh, including some of our speakers. We got an immense support at JNU from different scholars and from several scholars and faculties. Today, I would like to invite our president, Mr. Akil Murli. He is a PhD scholar at Kunur University, English Literature. He will be presiding the entire session today, the whole program. As per the program schedule, we have divided this program in two sessions. One is scholar session, and we have couple of scholars from different universities. They will be speaking here from abroad and here in physical mode. Then we will have a lunch break, and after that we will have a second session, that is academic session. And this session will be commenced by Professor Somen Chattopadhyay. After that, we will have another speaker, Professor Suresh Babu, GS. Then Dr. Manvendranath Bera, we have here. Please have a big applause for him. And then we will have a panel discussions. All three speakers will be panelists, and we will have a concluding session with a concluding speech by Professor Sumitro Banerjee. Professor Sumitro Banerjee is our advisory council chairperson. He will be speaking online. So now, without a further ado, I would like to request Akil Murli, PhD scholar, Kunur University, and president of DRSO, to preside the entire program. Please come to the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. A warm welcome and good morning to all of you who have assembled here for this convention that is being organized by DRSO regarding the impact on funding and research, particularly on how NEP will impact research. Before we go into the program, I'd like to give a brief introduction about DRSO, the organization, because it is relatively new to JNU. DRSO is a research scholars organization, and as Asif has already mentioned, we have been working for over 10 years. It was formed in 2012 in a few institutions in Kolkata. Following the death of a research scholar, and DRSO has since been working on many issues that are related to the well-being of scholars, particularly one of our most bread and butter problems, the fellowship. There have been many relentless movements since it was started in West Bengal. There have been many relentless movements, particularly pertaining to the state, and DRSO has been successful in compelling the state government to reinstate and increase the fellowships in West Bengal. And over the time, it spread to other states also. In the activities in states like Kerala started around 2014, and Also as an institution that is committed and firmly believes that research is rooted in the society. DRSO has also been engaged in many different activities that aims at giving back to society. As a socially conscious organization, DRSO has engaged itself in relief activities following natural disasters, for particularly in following the cyclones and floods in West Bengal, Assam, Kerala, and also as an organization that is committed to research. It it has, with the help of organizations like Breakthrough Science Society, it has organized science camps, and it is also an active participant in the India March for Science program that is held by the science community every year. DRSO has tried to involve all its members and also organize research scholars from within India and outside to be a part of this movement. And over the past 10 years of its existence, DRSO has organized various yeah, conventions and seminars relating to research, relating to research and education, with the help of organizations like the All India Safe Education Committee. So, after almost 10 years of its existence, DRSO held its first national conference on May 21st, 2022 at Jadavpur University in Kolkata. And ever since then, during the COVID period, which was a particularly hard time for research scholars, DRSO had organized a few conventions, and it was around this period that NEP was promulgated by the central government. DRSO has its own opinions about NEP and concerns about NEP, and had responded to the draft model of the NEP, which was brought out by the government. And in response, uh, during our conference, we had decided that DRSO would take an active role in creating a discussion about NEP, and also how NEP will affect research and education. So it was in the light of this decision that a program was taken on November 26th at Jantar Mandar. A few representatives from across the country had gathered at Jantar Mantar, and we had raised a protest. This was following a signature campaign held over 4 months, and we had submitted the signatures to the Prime Minister's office. In continuation of this uh, movement, today we are here in JNU, and we hope this convention will be very fruitful in inciting more discussions about NEP and also how it is going to affect research. Uh, we start the session now. We'll first we'll first have a resolution for the convention, which will be presented by Surjit Saha, who is a scholar at Calcutta University. I welcome Surjit to present the resolution.
Okay, hello. Main resolution. Research is the history recognized way to investigate and establish the truth of nature and society, and it is the only means of social progress. This is one of noblest professions whose importance to the well-being of a society needs no elaboration. One would have expected that in an inclusive and pro-people system, the for requirements for blooming of research is naturally taken care of by the government, and the social conditions necessary for that is nurtured upon. Yet, today we find ourselves in a situation when the whole of society, and as its integral part, the education and research, are in grave crisis. For decades, the research system continues to face various issues, many of which affects the lives of research scholars and the research ambience to a very high degree of severity. The abysmally low and persistently declining research funding in sciences, and in particular social sciences, the measly amounts of fellowships given to the research scholars in the country, irregular fellowship, huge disparity among scholars on fellowship, and several other counts, lack of quality research facilities, declining access to journals, books, and data for research activities, unsafe and often abusive workplace environment, unnecessary competition in the field of research, often leading to unacceptable promise in scientific and academic ethics, physical and mental stress, etc., are some of the burning issues facing the research sector today. In today's age of inflation and uncertainty, many research aspirants could not even think of pursuing their noble dream because of the high application fees and increasing semester and other fees in almost all institutions. We are at stage where large number of research scholars are taken in 1 or 2 years contractual use and throw basis, who in many cases don't even get their rightful payments and other benefits. The lack of availability of employment after PhD have forced many PhD degree holders to apply for employment in grade 4 posts, which often requires an education only up to the class 8. One glaring signature of the depth and breadth of the crisis is the staggering proportion of scholars who drop out of their research activities before completion of their PhD. The government miserably failed in its responsibility to the researchers who are supposed to be one of the main architects of the future of not only the nation but of the whole mankind. However, it is often put at the back and a propaganda is pursued that the lack of initiative from the individual researchers and their mediocre academic and intellectual capacities are at the root of the problems. Notwithstanding the futility of this argument, which often acts as an excuse by the policymakers, the argument itself suffers from internal inconsistency by overlooking the very process in which intellect is generated, motivated, and nurtured in the society. Research, by its very nature, is a social process. Its well-being and advancement is invariably depend upon a process and not just the individual researchers. Today, the very process which has been crippled for decades is at the verge of destruction by the governmental policies of increasing privatization and the rampant propagation of pseudo-science, pseudo-history in the society. The situation outlined above has been the long-standing picture of India's research and education, and it has been a long-standing requirement to undertake fundamental changes in the scenario. Promising the changes towards the betterment, the new education policy 2020 has been taken up by the central government. The way it was imposed through ordinance amidst the raging pandemic was nothing but a mockery of all democratic norms and principles, and raised question of the intent of such imposition. This policy is also being implemented almost as an wartime urgency by the central and all state governments. All institutions and regulatory bodies concerned with education are involved in a process of overhauling the existing education and research systems in lines with the new policy. Although NEP 2020 is being portrayed as the long-awaited panacea to the maladies plaguing our education system, a careful examination of the policy reveals a concerning picture. Eminent educationalists, teachers, and many involved in the field of education, including DRSO, opposed it ever since a draft policy was released. Yet, there is little discussion about different aspects of the policy among the scholars and the general public who are at the receiving end of its impacts. The new policy, even in its infancy, has compounded all these issues while adding entirely new dimensions depending the crisis. The following are but a few visible effects. Number one, fee for research activities increased across the country. IITs, ISARs, etc. recently saw a steep hike in fees. Number two, decline in funding for several fellowships and scholarships. Maulana Azad National Fellowship for Minorities, pre-matric scholarship among those cancelled by the central government. Number three, severe fund curtailment for science and social science bodies, enabling National Research Foundation to become the main research funding agency. Above that, the taxes, GST taxes on procuring scientific instruments has been increased from 5% to 18%. Number four, boosts from inane topics like Panchagavya, astrology, promotion of pseudo-science, pseudo-history through eminent institutions in the name of Indian knowledge system. Number five, entry into research and in particular the grants of fellowship only through centralized exams like CUET, NET, etc. in place of entrance exam held by different universities, directly affecting autonomy, diversity, and independent research. Number six, MPhil is discontinued, implying that there is no higher degree after master other than PhD, denying invaluable research experience for students. Number seven, weekly 4 to 6 hours teaching or research assistantship mandated for all scholars. It will put additional burden on them and paving the way for further exploitation. Aim is to use their intellectual and physical labor by reducing the number of permanent teaching facilities. Number 8, UGC's new Institute Development Plan creates provisions for lowering teacher-student ratio, employ industry and other professionals as teachers, and advocate 50% of the teacher recruitment on the contractual ad hoc basis. The same is being implemented through the Professor of Practice scheme. The aforementioned changes are already being witnessed in practice and through the new UGC PhD Regulation 2022 and are enough to underline the policy as one which is severely detrimental to the interests of higher education and research in the country. A particularly dangerous, far-fetched change is research is the way the NRF is being taken up. The NRF is a new funding body that, according to the policy, will encourage competitive research in all academic disciplines and creates a liaison among the researchers, policymakers, and the industries. According to the policy, it would work in parallel to other independent public funding bodies like UGC, DST, ICMR, etc. However, in reality, all such research funding bodies are systematically deprived of public funding, implying that those will be dried up and NRF will remain as the sole centralized funding agency, which is of public corporate nature by construction, that will control the entire research spectrum. A stated goal of NRF is to facilitate grants for competitive research on most urgent national research issues. But who decides the competitiveness and most urgent national research goal and on what parameters? Looking at the trends, it is clear that the centralization of research through NRF will take the arena under the dictum of the state and corporates, spelling doom of independent research in arts, humanities, and basic sciences, and therefore spoiling the soul of research itself. As research suffers new knowledge generation and the upbringing of teachers suffer, that directly affects the entire education chain. But there are more direct and far-reaching damage the policy makes in the college and university level education, which must be looked carefully with due importance. The new policy mixes up the curricular and extracurricular studies. In the name of holistic education, the interdisciplinary approach, the failed CBCS system, is now reintroduced in the name of liberal arts and is also extended to schools. The examinations at different levels are being centralized through the National Testing Agency, NTA, which is gradually moving towards centralization into a common curriculum at schools as well as higher education, the damage of which in a country of diversity like India is understandable. The same approach is taken into research entrance as well. The policy gave special emphasis to digitization of education. The experiments in this regard during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic situation shows the futility of this approach. Where in India, most of the families don't have access to internet or other digital technologies, and merely 2 to 3% students in both school and higher education can access the means for better utilization of the digital technology. The digitization as part of the policy itself will certainly and only help the digital divide, privatization and centralization, and make education more exclusive. Also, the higher education institutions, in particular the private higher education institutions, are given near complete freedom to determine fees in a section ironically titled as Curbing Commercialization of Education. A grave danger is lurking into the provisions of accreditation and autonomy, regulations, and the 4-year undergraduate program. All the currently affiliated colleges are envisioned as either a part of the university or independent degree granting bodies over next few years. This will create massive chaos and discrimination, as the degree will no longer carry the name and significance of the university, but its value will be determined based on the prestige of the colleges. Moreover, the policy vouching for graded accreditation for the time being eventually aims for binary accreditation, where the accreditation will be labeled just yes or no, with no implying closure. Given the present infrastructure student-teacher ratio is in most of the colleges, the massive blow the colleges received in the pandemic, and in a dwindling funding scenario, how can a college cope with the enforcement of the digital system and four-year undergraduate course with research? Either only few privileged institutions will survive, or the colleges that want to survive under this new accreditation regime will have to beg to the corporates for funding. This will complete the privatization of higher education, reduce the number of colleges, and make higher education more distant from common people, lead to curriculum that benefits the private funders and the state regulators, and with the so-called autonomy and liberty to determine fees, the commodification of education will be complete. Further, with the provision in the UGC PhD guidelines of direct admission to research after obtaining 75% marks in the four-year undergraduate program, the academic relevance of the master degree is being diluted, and space for undergraduate program and the space for detailed, in-depth, and matured master level training to obtain genuine knowledge of a subject and the attainment of the equivalent thinking capacity is squeezed. In addition, the changes in curriculum from school level to research incorporating unsustained content, introduction of unscientific and false ideas of astrology and vastu in higher education, and rampant propagation of pseudo-science and pseudo-history through institutions like IITs create massive threat before research and society. DRSO opposed the policy from the beginning. It had called for an organized protest against the distrust policy in the first scholar conference held on May 21, 2022 in Kolkata on scholar issues and against NEP 2020. Scholar Protest Week was observed in September 2020. A countrywide sign campaigning was conducted in which nearly 3,000 scholars signed, and a scholar demonstration was held at New Delhi on November 25, 2022. In its continuation, today we have assembled in this convention. The convention declares NEP 2020 as an utterly exclusive anti-research, anti-education policy, and pledges to build up stubborn scholar movement across the country to resist the implementation of this dreaded policy. The convention voices the demands. Number one, 3% of budget for research, 10% for education. Number two, high fellowship for all research scholars. Number three, give monthly fellowship in regular monthly basis. Number four, stop disparity in fellowship and other benefits. Number five, stop pseudo-science, pseudo-history in the name of Indian knowledge system. Number six, withdraw National Education Policy 2020 and appeals all research scholars, faculties, students, teachers, parents, and all education and research-loving people to voice for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Surajit. Now we'll have scholars speaking about the resolution. Before that, we'd also like to welcome a few scholars who have joined us online. We'll have first Praveen Mahato. He's the treasurer of DRSO and he's a scholar at Ranchi University, Jharkhand. He'll begin the discussions about the resolution.
धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय और सभागार में उपस्थित साथियों। एक लंबे इंतजार के बाद भारत में पहली बार न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आया और शायद हम सबको उम्मीद था कि ये नई शिक्षा नीति भारत के लिए एक नया दिशा लेके आएगा और एक ऐसी परिस्थिति में नई शिक्षा नीति को लागू किया गया, अगर हम इसको सीधे तौर पे बोलें तो ये अनडेमोक्रेटिक था। छुपे तरीके से इसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया। आज जो मेन रिजोल्यूशन पढ़ा गया उस रिजोल्यूशन को मैं होलहार्टेडली सपोर्ट करता हूं और उसके समर्थन में मैं अपनी कुछ बातों को आपके बीच रखना चाहता हूं। पहली विषय ये तो है कि जो हम शोधार्थी हैं या जो हम शोध करते हैं या जो शोध छात्र हैं, हम ही वो लोग हैं जो समाज को आगे ले जाते हैं या समाज की प्रगति में विकास के लिए अपनी सहयोग देते हैं या अपनी कंट्रीब्यूशन देते हैं। और शोध ही वो मात्र एक टूल है या औजार है जिसके थ्रू समाज की प्रगति को और आगे पहुंचाया जा सकता है। नई शिक्षा नीति को अगर हम देखें और जो भी उस विषय में इंक्लूड किया गया उसको अगर हम देखें, केवल अगर हम हायर एजुकेशन की बात करें तो हमें यह महसूस होगा, मैं उनको पॉइंट वाइज मैं जो ऑब्जर्व किया हूं मैं बोलना चाहूंगा। पहली बात है कि हम शिक्षा को किस प्रकार से समझते हैं, इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन के बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन अगर हम इसकी सही तरीके से ऑब्जर्वेशन करें एनईपी को तो हमें यह महसूस होगा ये इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन की ओर नहीं बल्कि एक्सक्लूसिव एजुकेशन की ओर हमें ले जा रहा है। पहली विषय तो यह है। दूसरी विषय है कि एजुकेशन का पूरी तरीके से कॉमर्शलाइजेशन करना। आज के समय में जो स्टेट्स हैं, खासकर वैसे स्टेट जो एजुकेशन के तौर पर बहुत पिछड़े हुए हैं, छत्तीसगढ़, झारखंड, जहां के ऐसे स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं जो शायद नेट के बारे में जानते नहीं, जो मास्टर्स के स्टूडेंट हैं वो नेट के बारे में जानते नहीं है, या जो बैचलर डिग्री का जो +2 खत्म कर रहे हैं, जिनको बैचलर डिग्री में एडमिशन लेना है, उनको सीयूईटी के थ्रू मालूम नहीं है। लेकिन वो विश्वविद्यालय ये निर्णय ले लिया कि अभी जो यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन होगा वो सीयूईटी के थ्रू होगा। तो बहुत सारे ऐसे विद्यार्थी होंगे जिनको पता ही नहीं होगा सीयूईटी के बारे में और वो अपनी बैचलर डिग्री करने के लिए एलिजिबल ही नहीं रहेंगे क्योंकि फॉर्म ही अप्लाई नहीं कर पाएंगे। ये एक बहुत बड़ी विषय है। दूसरी विषय है कि जो पब्लिक एजुकेशन है उसको किस तरीके से कॉमर्शलाइज किया जाएगा, क्योंकि आप जो लोग शोध विद्यार्थी हैं, खासकर जो लोग एक्सपेरिमेंटल काम करते हैं, हम जब अपनी इंस्ट्रूमेंटेशन यूज करने के लिए सैंपल टेस्टिंग के लिए कहीं कुछ सैंपल्स भेजते हैं उसमें 18% जीएसटी लगता है। तो एक विद्यार्थी के लिए जो अपनी शोध समाज को देगा, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि विद्यार्थी जो रिसर्च करेंगे, जो शोध करेंगे, वो शोध वो अपने साथ लेके जाएंगे। हम जो कुछ पाते हैं इसी समाज से पाते हैं और उस नॉलेज को यूज करके, प्रयोग करके हम समाज में कुछ और जोड़ के दे के जाते हैं। तो ये समाज की और ये सिस्टम की होनी चाहिए विषय की एजुकेशन की पूरी जिम्मेदारी सरकार की हो, जो कि मजुमदार कमेटी 2005 की मजुमदार कमेटी आई थी, शायद आप सब लोग उससे जानते होंगे। मजुमदार कमेटी की रिकमेंडेशन थी कि शिक्षा की पूरी खर्च सरकार उठाए, परंतु एनईपी मजुमदार कमेटी के कोई भी रिकमेंडेशन को न मानते हुए अगर खुले तौर पर बोला जाए कि एनआरएफ की विषय में डिस्कशन हो चुकी है, रेजोल्यूशन में बात बोली गई है कि एनआरएफ की भी अगर हम देखें तो एक पैरेलल सिस्टम बनाने की कोशिश की जा रही है और कुछ समय बाद जो पब्लिक फंडेड एजेंसीज हैं, जैसे डीएसटी हैं या और भी एजेंसीज हैं, उनको एक प्रकार से खत्म कर दी जाएंगी और एनआरएफ को केवल रखा जाएगा। तो कुल मिलाकर जो पूरी शिक्षा व्यवस्था है वो मार्जिनलाइज्ड सेक्शन के जो लोग हैं उनसे दूर होता हुआ चला जाएगा और एक ऐसा स्थिति पैदा होगा भारत में, शोध केवल कुछ लोगों के लिए रहेगा जो कुछ जिनके पास पैसे हैं, इस प्रकार का होगा जो वो कराना चाहते हैं। आज के समय में अगर आप कोई फंड लेना चाहते हैं सेमिनार के नाम पे या कॉन्फ्रेंस के नाम से, तो टॉपिक या उसके थीम बहुत डिसाइडेड हैं। आप अगर थोड़ी सी अगर सर्च करें तो आपको देखने को मिलेगा विगत 2-3 महीनों में इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम के ऊपर बहुत सारे सेमिनार, और वो पब्लिक फंडेड बॉडीज के थ्रू फंडेड होकर सेमिनार्स हो रहे हैं। उनके थीम्स क्या है? लेकिन अगर उसी जगह पर आप देखें तो बेसिक साइंस पर कितने सेमिनार ऑर्गेनाइज हुए हैं जो कि पब्लिक फंडेड बॉडी से हुआ है। अगर हम थोड़ी सी स्टैटिस्टिक्स देखें तो हमें ये पता चलेगा कि एक स्पेसिफिक आइडियोलॉजी को, एक स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक रिलेटेड चीजों को बहुत ज्यादा तवज्जो देके उसको आगे लाया जा रहा है। उसी जगह पर दूसरी जो बेसिक साइंस है उसको उस प्रकार से तवज्जो नहीं दिया जा रहा, या लिटरेचर की, सोशल साइंसेस की, ट्राइबल लैंग्वेज की। मैं जिस जगह से बिलोंग करता हूँ उस विश्वविद्यालय में 9 ट्राइबल लैंग्वेज में मास्टर डिग्री होता है और पीएचडी होता है, परंतु ये दुख का विषय है कि अभी तक वहां पर कोई ट्राइबल लैंग्वेज पे, टीआरएल सब्जेक्ट पे कोई अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सेमिनार नहीं हो पाई है। थैंक यू। फिर से मैं आज की जो रिजोल्यूशन है उसको समर्थन करते हुए मैं अपनी बातों को समाप्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Praveen. Now we'll have a few scholars from representing different universities across the country. First, we'll have Amit Mandal. He's a research scholar at Vishwabharati University. I request Amit to come and speak on the resolution.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Respected speakers and General Secretary, DRSO President, and my dear scholars and students, I fully support the main resolutions. In support of these resolutions, I would like to share my opinions about NRF. We have all heard that as a part of the implementation of National Education Policy 2020, the National Research Foundations, NRF, a new funding body is to be formed by the central government to encourage competitive research in all academic disciplines and create a community among researchers, policymakers, and industry. However, National Education Policy mentions that NRF will carefully coordinate with UGC, DST, and ICMR like funding agencies. But we can understand that the introduction of NRF among the previously established independent funding bodies will create a mess. Actually, after looking at our last budget 2023, it is clear to all of us that the government aims to spend the minimum budget on education, and which will subsequently affect the independent fund granting agencies such as UGC, DST, ICMR, etc. So by the time of NRF, all other funding will be dried up. NRF will grow as the sole centralized funding body under the dictum of state and corporate. This corporate regulated funding body NRF will destroy the remnants of independence of research in areas and the last hope of research in basic sciences or humanities will also be demolished totally. Interestingly, various private organizations are allowed to independently fund research according to their priorities and needs, which will enhance profit orientation and contractualization of research using institutional facilities and our labor. Through NRF, our research sector will be used in the hands of strong non-state forces and foundations in the direction of anti-science, anti-education, and anti-history in future. At our university, Vishwabharati University, which is the only central university in West Bengal, national education policy has been formulated. As a part of national education policy, MPhil is discontinued from academic session 2022-23. Previously, this MPhil research experience helped with certain job prospectus. Through the implementation of national education policy, authorities deny MPhil qualifications. So the hundreds of scholars, especially in the literature and humanities sector, are now in helpless situations. Also, our university has unofficially stopped giving PhD admissions without NET qualifications. So scholars who have already completed MPhil but cannot qualify for NET are failed to continue their research through PhD admission. As a part of National Education Policy, Academic Bank of Credit, ABC, Common University Entrance Test, CUET, have also been implemented in our university. In doing research, like other universities, our researchers are also suffering from various problems like discontinuity of fellowships, inadequate instrumentation facilities in laboratory, lack of funding, fee hike in research, etc. Under the banner of DRSO, Vishwabharati, our researchers have been protesting in demand of non-net fellowships against the huge disparity in fellowship, fee hike, and for a better research environment. After the protest, we have achieved so many demands. Finally, I would like to say, to save research, we have to unite and raise our voice unitedly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amit. Next, we'll have Brigu Chakrabarti from IIT Kharagpur.
Respected seniors, juniors, and friends. So I wholeheartedly support this main resolution that has been read, and my previous speakers have elaborately discussed about the scheme of things. So I will be just talking on the that Center of Excellence for Indian Knowledge System that has been recently established in our institution. So in in accordance with that NEP 2020, this Center of Excellence for Indian Knowledge System was established in our institute. So I guess all of you know about it. Anyway, so the main motive of this center was to propagate unscientific and false claims to befool people and to attack the rational bent of mind of the society. So they have been bestowed with huge amount of funds, and they actively do their events. They among their guests, like Baba Ramdev was one of their guests in one of their programs. So like that, and they propagate many such false claims like the Aryan migration took place from India, and like the way Hitler did in Germany at that time. So in the very same way they are planning to do, and so I would like to address this to this house and ask this house to raise their voice of protest against this bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Bhrigu. Next, we'll have Satish from JNU who speak on the resolution.
गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन, माई सेल्फ सतीश कुमार गौतम। मैं जो है कि स्कूल ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग का स्टूडेंट हूँ, रिसर्च स्कॉलर हूँ। एक्चुअली मैं साइंस बैकग्राउंड से आता हूँ, तो जो मुझे प्रॉब्लम फेसिंग है मैं यहाँ पे थोड़ा डिस्क्राइब करूँगा, ठीक है। जैसे न्यू एजुकेशन जो पॉलिसी आई है उसके विषय में थोड़ा मैं बता दूँ आपको कि जैसे सपोज करिए कि न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जो है, अगर हम वो प्राइवेटाइजेशन हो जाता है तो उससे हमारा क्या लॉसेस होगा। सपोज करिए कि जो एक बिजनेसमैन है, आपकी जो बोतल है वो 20 रुपए की है, और बिजनेसमैन अगर उसको 20 रुपए बेचना है तो 20 रुपए की बोतल वो 100 रुपए में बेच सकता है। तो सिर्फ उसको पता है कि पैसे कैसे हमको प्रॉफिट मिलेगा। इसी तरह अगर हमारा जो एजुकेशन है वो प्राइवेटाइजेशन हो जाएगा या बिजनेसमैन के हाथों में चला जाएगा, हमारे लॉसेस क्या होंगे। तो वो जो हमारी फीस है वो 100 रुपए से 500 करेगा, उससे पैसे कैसे, उसको वो बेनिफिट चाहिए। बट जो हमारी एजुकेशन में क्वालिटी है, क्वांटिटी है, उसको उससे नहीं मतलब है, उसको सिर्फ बेनिफिट चाहिए। तो हमारे सबसे ज्यादा लॉसेस इसमें होंगे। इसको आपको समझना होगा कि सिर्फ जो बिजनेसमैन है वो अगर उसको सिर्फ पैसे कमाने हैं, लेकिन हमारी जो एजुकेशन में क्वालिटी है, क्वांटिटी है, उसको उससे क्या मतलब है, उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। ये आपको भी पता होना चाहिए और हम लोगों को भी पता चाहिए। तो जैसे मैं साइंस बैकग्राउंड से आता हूँ, फंडिंग एजेंसी जैसे DST है, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, SCR भी है, साइंस रिसर्च डेवलपमेंट इंजीनियरिंग एजुकेशन करके है। तो बहुत सारी फंडिंग एजेंसी आती है। तो जो फंडिंग एजेंसी क्या करती है कि पैसे प्रोवाइड कराती है, 33 लाख करोड़ों में ऐसे मिलते हैं। तो पहले बहुत पैसे आते थे। बेसिकली मैं मास्टर किया हूँ BHU से, फिर उसके बाद यहाँ पे आया हूँ। तो वहां पे भी फंडिंग एजेंसी पैसे देती थी, लेकिन उसको क्या किया कि बहुत ही डिक्रीज कर दिया गया। और जो एक पॉइंट और मैं आपको नोट करा देना चाहता हूँ, जो साइंस में इंडिया का कंट्रीब्यूशन है सिर्फ 2% है। पूरे वर्ल्ड में देख लीजिए, आप गूगल सर्च मार लीजिए कि जो साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी है उसमें जो इंडिया का कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो सिर्फ 2% है, और उसमें कितने साइंटिस्ट हमारे इंडिया के आते हैं वो भी आप देख सकते हैं। तो इसमें ये है कि जैसे मैं जिस फील्ड में वर्क करता हूँ, मैं बेसिकली जो है कि आपके मोबाइल में जो है कि सभी लोग पता होगा, आप मोबाइल एज ए सेंसर डिटेक्टर वर्क करता है। उसमें बेसिकली क्या लगा है, एंटीना लगा है। तो जो है कि वो स्मॉल साइज का होता है। तो मैं बेसिकली उसी टॉपिक पे काम करता हूँ। मुझे 100 बार सोचना पड़ता है कि जो मैं डिजाइन कर रहा हूँ क्या इंडिया में वो पॉसिबल है कि नहीं। मैं किसी चीज पे वर्क करने से पहले ये सोचता हूँ कि वो इंडिया में पॉसिबल है कि नहीं, क्योंकि हमारे पास इतने पैसे नहीं है कि हम उसको बना सके, डिजाइन कर सके और उसको सिमुलेट कर सके। A4 साइज की एक पेज है। जिस सबस्ट्रेट, जिस मटेरियल पे मैं काम करता हूँ उसकी प्राइस 1 लाख है, A4 साइज पेपर, और वो इंडिया में बनती भी नहीं है, वो US से मंगाई जाती है। तो बहुत सारे हमारे पास प्रॉब्लम फेसिंग है। एक मैं इंस्ट्रूमेंट पे काम करता हूँ जिसको बोलते हैं वेक्टर नेटवर्क एनालाइजर, बीएनए शॉर्ट फॉर्म में बोलते हैं। तो उसके फिजिकल पैरामीटर्स मैं मेजर करता हूँ, लेकिन वो भी इंडिया में नहीं है, उसको यूएस से मंगाया जाता है। तो वो मंगा के रखा गया है हमारे स्कूल में, बट उसकी कॉस्ट अराउंड 60 लाख है। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे टास्क मेरे पास हैं कि जो फंडिंग एजेंसी है हमको पैसे नहीं दे रही है, यूजीसी से पैसे नहीं मिल रहे हैं। 18 लाख एक्चुअली मैं मतलब हमारे सर को पैसे मिले 18 लाख रुपए, बट मुश्किल यहाँ से है जो जेएनयू का एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, बिल्डिंग है, वहां से पैसे निकालना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाते हैं। जो वेंडर है उसने जो हमें जो बोलते हैं क्या यूएसपीसी पर्सनल कंप्यूटर प्रोवाइड कराया, लेकिन जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उसको पैसे नहीं दे रहे हैं। रोज फोन आते हैं, कॉल आते हैं कि आप पैसे मुझे नहीं दे रहे हैं। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम फेसिंग है। तो इसको कैसे मतलब रिजॉल्व किया जाए, कैसे समझा जाए, इस पे हमें सोच विचार करने हैं। तो बस इसी के साथ मैं अपना स्टेटमेंट खत्म करता हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच सर।
Thank you, Satish. Now we'll have Abhishek Sahu, who will be speaking who is a scholar at Texas A&M University. He'll be speaking to us online. So I welcome Abhishek to speak to us.
Am I audible? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, please? Hello?
Wait. Wait. We are having a bit of technical issue. Just a minute. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me? Can you hear me? You hear me now?
He will join again. Actually, we were not able to hear him. Please ask him to join again. He joined.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. member of DRSO. So, first of all, I would like to wholeheartedly support the resolution of the conference, and I'm really thankful to DRSO that they have raised this issue, the important issue. So, it's more or less clear after the pandemic that the basic research on science, social sciences is very important for the progress of the country. And the recession is not, and the pandemic is not all about the health. It's regarding the job, it's regarding the war, regarding the price, everything. So in that scenario, where while all over the world, the countries are trying to enhance their budget for the research and higher educations. Unfortunately, our country, they are going backwards. Especially in the last budget, is really frustrating for the scholars, not only the scholars, also for the all the people who loves the education and who wants the progress of the country. If we carefully observe the data, we'll see that most of the countries who are doing well in terms of science education, uh, they have at least 4 to 6% budget in research and more than 10% in the education. And we are constantly, the research democratic research scholar organization are constantly on demand for that. But unfortunately, we have to raise this demand every time, every year. But but demand remains demand. It doesn't get fruitful because probably it's a real plan to slash down the education budget so that most of the people can be exploited in other way. They get dumb, they do not get education, so they can follow a particular uh, ism or a motive, particular motive that can rule the whole country without any logic. So it's not unplanned, it's planned. That's why the limited amount of budget is allocated, which has been allocated to our country for the to the education, higher education. They are these fund is going to spend on Indian knowledge system and other unscientific things. So this is the time that we have to be very careful. We have to raise the voice, and it's not only for the scholars. Actually, this attack is from the school level. So even in the syllabus, school level syllabus, the unscientific, bigotry, unscientific thoughts, they are tactfully introduced. DRSO is always against of that. And as a research scholar organization, we are really concerned in future, the new education policy, they are trying to build a new universities. But the main point is the university, number of university we have already, they are suffering from lack of infrastructure, lack of proper research laboratories, where most of the countries, they focus on the building up research facility in the university, because the undergrad students, they are from the university. So as per Humboldt, most of the country, they follow that they have to build up the university such a way that the research, most of the important research work build up from those public universities. That is common for all other countries like Europe and US. So university in center of excellence for any country, but in our country, the universities are mostly neglected. Although most of the foundations, the undergrad and the graduations is the graduation course are already uh, built up in the university, but research is mostly neglected there. So I don't know what is going to be happen if the new private university come into the field or into the market. I have a fear that they will try to occupy the position, and the whole motto will be to privatize the research, which is really dangerous for our country, because most of the people, most of the students, they don't have the proper facilities, proper in the university. So, and they cannot afford the private universities. So it's a real game, and we have to understand the game. And the resolutions of this conference will explain that. And the ultimate way is to, we have to speak. We have to united against this policy, and we have to raise our voice. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, carry on.
Thank you, Abhishek. Next, we'll have Shivam Tiwari. He's an assistant professor at GL Bajaj Institute of Technology and Management, Greater Noida. And he's also a research scholar at NEP University, Uttar Pradesh.
Wait. You continue.
उपस्थित साथियों, कुछ पॉइंट हैं जो मैं नोट कर रहा था और उसी पॉइंट्स पे ही मैं बोलना चाहूँगा। पहला पॉइंट ये है, इंडिया के अंदर रिसर्च के लिए गवर्नमेंट पैसा देना ही नहीं चाहती। कारण उसका साफ साफ यह है कि वो चाहते ही नहीं कि आप एक गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट में पढ़ें। प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट को बिलोंग कर रहा हूँ मैं, वहाँ पे क्या किस तरीके का माहौल है उससे थोड़ा सा आपको डराने जरूर आया। अगर आप प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट में पीएचडी कर रहे हैं तो आप ये समझ के चलें कि लाइसेंस सॉफ्टवेयर वहाँ पे नहीं है, किसी भी तरीके के पीएचडी का माहौल तो वहाँ पे नहीं ही है। तो ये पूरी तरीके से आपको धक्का दे रहा है कि बाहर आप रिसर्च पेपर लिखवा लें, आप थीसिस लिखवा लें और एक डिग्री आप लेके चले जाएं। ये एक नई तरीके की मार्केट को जरूर खोल रहा है और इससे साफ साफ ये होगा कि किसी भी तरीके का अगर आपके पास में बजट नहीं है, आपके पास में पैसा नहीं है, तो आप बिल्कुल भी रिसर्च करने लायक नहीं बचे। रिसर्च तो वैसे भी नहीं होना है क्योंकि प्राइवेट में आप रिसर्च के लिए बचे ही नहीं है। सॉफ्टवेयर आपके पास नहीं होते। और एक अभी पहले जेएनयू से जो साथी थे उन्होंने बताया कि 60 लाख का सॉफ्टवेयर वगैरह जो कुछ भी उन्हें रिक्वायरमेंट थी, इस तरीके का तो हम लोग सोच भी नहीं सकते। 50,000 का सॉफ्टवेयर भी नहीं यहाँ पे मौजूद होता है। एमआईटी यूनिवर्सिटी वन ऑफ द बेस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी मानी जाती है प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशन में। आप सोच के देखें, जो एमआईटी यूनिवर्सिटी अगर वन ऑफ द बेस्ट है, वहां पर 50,000 का लाइसेंस सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं है, तो आप 60 लाख की तो बात सपने में भी नहीं सोच सकते। दूसरी चीज है, एक इंस्टीट्यूट के लिए, रिसर्च के लिए आपके पास में सिर्फ पैसा ही नहीं चाहिए होता, बहुत सारा मोरल सपोर्ट चाहिए होता है। वो प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट में आपको मिलने से रहा। गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन का भी हाल यही है कि आपको पढ़ाने के लिए 4 से 6 घंटे आपको पढ़ाना पड़ता है, उसके बाद में आप कुछ काम कर पाएंगे। वो माहौल नहीं होता है रिसर्च के लिए। डेटा सेट के लिए जहां तक मैंने बाहर के इंस्टीट्यूशन को देखा है कि कई सारी गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट्स हैं जिनके पास में एक डेटा कलेक्टिव फॉर्म में रहता है। इंडिया के अंदर वेबसाइट्स की भारी कमी है और डेटा आपको, अगर मेडिकल डोमेन में आप रिसर्च में काम कर रहे हैं तो आपके पास में डेटा सेट ही अवेलेबल नहीं है, तो आप रिसर्च पेपर क्या लिखेंगे। दूसरी चीज है जर्नल्स की फीस के बारे में भी बता दूं कि गवर्नमेंट किसी भी तरीके के जर्नल सपोर्ट्स आपको नहीं देती। एल्सवेयर के जर्नल्स जितने $2100, $1200, $1300 फ्री जर्नल्स का नाम आज केवल इतना रह गया है। 1 साल तक आप वेट करते रहेंगे, 1 साल के बाद में रिव्यू आता है, वो भी उसके बाद में फिर वो रिव्यूज होने के बाद में एडिटर के पास में पेपर रखा रहता है। अगर आपने गलती से भी एक मेल डाल दिया कि आप रिव्यू मेरा जो है अब तो मुझे वापस कर दें, आपको रिजेक्शन लेटर पकड़ा दिया जाता है 13 महीने के बाद में। ये भी एक फोर्स करता है कि आप बाहर जाएं और पेपर जो है प्राइवेट की तरीके से, यानी कि साफ साफ है कि IEEE का जो मैं हाल यहाँ पर देख रहा हूँ, एक टाइम था IEEE की एक कॉन्फ्रेंस होती थी किसी भी इंस्टीट्यूट के अंदर, लेकिन अभी आज की डेट में GL वजह जहां मैं पढ़ा रहा हूँ 4 कॉन्फ्रेंस एक साल में हो जाती हैं। रीजन साफ है कि 2800 रुपए कॉन्फ्रेंस में एक पेपर का IEEE ले जाता है, बाकी 9000 फीस पर पेपर का यहाँ कॉन्फ्रेंस का चल रहा है। इट्स ए बड़ा बड़ा बिजनेस है, करोड़ रुपए आ रहा है और IEEE ने ये पूरी तरीके से बर्बाद करके रख दिया कॉन्फ्रेंसेस को। तो आप आगे कुछ और चीजें हैं कि एमफिल खत्म होने से क्या होगा कि सामने वाला स्कॉलर को पता ही नहीं रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी क्या है, क्या चीजें जरूरत हैं और क्या चीजें नहीं है। डायरेक्ट अब तो बात हो रही है कि बीटेक 4th ईयर में अगर आपने विद रिसर्च कर रखा है तो आपको एडमिशन हो जाएगा सीधा PhD में। PhD में वो क्या कर रहा है, 6 महीने तक वो परेशान होता है कोर्स वर्क को कंप्लीट करने में, पास करने के लिए। उसके बाद में सीधा वो उसको फोर्सफुली उसको भेज दिया जाता है बाहर की मार्केट में, आप पेपर लिखवा लें। फीस हाइक के लिए आपने यहाँ पर रेजोल्यूशन में पॉइंट आया है, अच्छा पॉइंट है कि अब IIT में भी जाना है तो आपको फीस तो ज्यादा पे ही करनी पड़ेगी। कोई फर्क ही नहीं रह जाएगा प्राइवेट और IIT में, सिर्फ नॉलेज के बेसिस पे तो फर्क है ही, ठीक है, लेकिन पैसा तो आपको उतना ही देना पड़ रहा है। तो धीरे धीरे प्राइवेटाइजेशन की तरफ गवर्नमेंट चाहती है कि आप प्राइवेटाइजेशन की तरफ मूव करें। यहाँ जिनका सम्मान होता है वो क्या है, धीरेन्द्र कृष्ण शास्त्री, सुदर्शन टीवी एंड सदगुरु। सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन में सदगुरु जा जाके बता रहे हैं किस तरीके से एक रुद्राक्ष की माला को नचाते हैं, जबकि उनको बेसिक साइंस भी नहीं पता कि क्यों नाच रही है माला। और ये पूरी तरीके से अब तो सीधी बात है कि बॉम्बे IIT बॉम्बे वगैरह भी सदगुरु को अगर निमंत्रण दे रहे हैं तो क्या बचा है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री खुद जाकर के सदगुरु के आश्रम में जाकर के उनका पूरा उद्घाटन समारोह देखते हैं, 1.5 घंटे के प्रोग्राम में शामिल होते हैं, कभी वो JNU भी आए। ठीक है, थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, Shivam. Now, this session is open to the house. Anybody can speak. Anybody who wants to place their opinions can come forward and speak. The speakers kindly introduce themselves.
Hello, all of you. So I just came to attend the session, but Suman said me to speak. So I am Sadan Raza. Many of you may not know me. So I'm researcher scholar in Zakir Hussain Center for Educational Studies. So I haven't prepared anything because I just came to attend the session. It is like any other morning for me. But after she told me to speak on something, I've prepared a few of the points which I would like to discuss here. First and the foremost is that many of us who have spoken have pointed out that there is going to be research and industry linkage, right? So, what can be the impact of this linkage? I would like to share a few of the points in that. First and the foremost point is that pure research will get compromised. Suppose that I want to do a research that will help to develop the discipline I'm from economics discipline, right? So in every discipline there are some research methodology or methods through which you try to analyze your research questions, right? Suppose I want to work in econometric research where I want to develop the method through which we analyze something. So this has nothing to do with industry. Rather, this will develop the discipline itself. So there is no industry linkage in this case. Or suppose I want to work on something which I think can give a new economic model, but I'm not sure about it. So let me give one example or analogical example to make this point like more clear. Is that suppose ISRO wants to prepare a new satellite or some new system to send it to like a stratosphere or any other part of the other than Earth. So in that case it may happen that the satellite goes up and gets crashed, right? But ISRO will get funding even after this crash. Why? Because everyone saw that they tried it. The same way I want to try and develop a new model in economics. And if I fail, then will I get another kind of fellowship or a scholarship to continue my research? No. Why? Because no one could see that how I failed and is this system can work or not. So maybe if I fail, someone after me will work on the same topic and develop it in much better way than me. So this is pure research. This type of pure research to develop a discipline will really get compromised when you talk about industry and research linkage. The second point is that the very idea that why this is getting compromised is coming from the factor trust. Because if we as a researchers are trustable, then we will get funding for such pure research. So when the government is giving funds to research organizations like ISRO or other things, so in these institutions, the government trusts that they will use the fund to enhance their research and some of the research will fail. But as a social scientist, maybe I am not, they are not trusting me. That is why they are not giving me the fund to develop a new model if I want to. Or use me a new software as mentioned, some costly software with which I want to develop a social science model through which we can analyze our society in much better manner. So these things will be compromised. Second is another point is that now when the industry linkage is there, this is very important point again from the discipline perspective, that suppose I have done a research, I have seen it with my own eyes, that someone has done a project and now you want to publish a paper out of it. Okay, so if you show research, the result that this variable is significant, there will be something new happening in the ground that you will show, and your journal will get published in B grade article. Okay, B grade journals. Your article will be published in B grade journals. If you show the similar results like others have shown, your article will be published in C grade because you have only mentioned about a new context. The results are same. I have seen people saying, one of the research managers saying, "Ki change the result because we want to publish it in the B grade journal." So if you do this type of linkage where funding will happen only on the basis of something new you are showing, and that professor is doing this, why? Because he wants his own promotion. So epistemic norms and values of your discipline will get compromised. So this is very serious for the discipline itself, right? Third is that if you talk about research and type of journals in which I publish papers, so this also I have seen happening that teachers focus not in JNU but in some other university I'm talking about, that one fine morning my professor came to class and said that from now onwards I will not give notes to everyone like I used to give. Rather I will just explain the things, you people notes in the sense like speaking in a way so that students can make notes. So for this the teacher will have to prepare in hand. So he said that now I'm busy in research and I want to publish 4 journal articles this year. So from this year, I will just revise a little bit and come and explain the things. You people do your own job. Like you people will have to work hard. I agree to this, but teaching is getting compromised in some sense or the other. So we don't see many teachers trying to develop their own course over a period of time and giving more time to teaching so that students can learn in a better way. Why? Because they are also in that rat race because they want their promotion and they want what we call a H factor or whatever factor, that how many citations your research got or in how many important and reputed journals you have published your paper. So they are also more focused into that, and that is rational from their side because they want their promotion or they want them to be recognized as a good research because there is a rat race. So in this case, another important dimension is that exclusion will be there in the sense that those students from marginalized community or first generation learner who need special care from the teacher, they won't get it, right? So this is also a serious problem. Another issue is, this is from the perspective of a teacher or a researcher. Now if you talk about the industry linkage and it goes to the ranking of the institution itself, so institutions also compete among themselves for the ranking, and ranking parameters are set for every institution. So like one student here came from Vishwabharati to speak about NEP. I also belong to Vishwabharati. I have done my bachelor and masters from there. So I saw a very drastic fall in rank of Vishwabharati in IRF ranking. So I went and tried to analyze that why this happened. So I found that two of the schools of Vishwabharati, like we have schools here, so they have Sangeet Bhavan and some Rabindra Sangeet where music is taught. So they go and perform internationally. But as if this is not research, so this doesn't get included or get that much importance in ranking. So the autonomy of institutions get compromised. So suppose some institution they want to focus more, like in Vishwabharati there is one bhavan or a school called Kala Bhavan, where fine arts is taught, where students do painting. So do you have a method to capture those type of output? Because this is also output of the university. So in autonomy of the institution also get compromised, and autonomy of institution and autonomy of researcher both are very important for the discipline to get evolved over time, right? Another is role of MPhil. We talked about role of MPhil, that students do not know like research methodology when they come after their masters. But see this, that fellowship duration, GRF fellowship duration is 5 years, right? In JNU now you need 4 years for your PhD. Officially you don't need 5 years. So one fine morning, if you get new notification that the fellowship duration will be now reduced to 4 years, because researchers don't need 5 years to do research and there is no MPhil. So it may happen that funding duration will reduce. So there are other implications also. If you just talk about, this is related from the perspective of fellowship. Other is that even if I know research methodology, many a times I don't even know my preference itself. Like as a researcher, this is not something like an industry perspective where someone else will tell me what to do. Rather, I have to see that whether I really get interested in this or not. Like for then my MPhil from CITD JNU, where I worked on economics of smoking behavior, addictive behaviors, right? This comes under health economics. But after that, I found that I'm not very much interested in it. Rather, I have to try out something else. So I came to education for my PhD, and I'm liking education more than health. But in future, I can work, I mean, trying to work on the intersection of health and education, right? But if students won't even know their own preferences, so MPhil used to help those students to decide, to know their own preferences and to decide whether to do PhD or not. Many a times we used to take a break also of 2 years and to decide whether to go on. So if MPhil is not there, then these problems will happen with the researchers. Okay, I don't think there is much time left, so I should wrap up. These are all points from my side. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sade. The house is still open, but since we do not have much time, I request the speakers to shorten. Kindly introduce themselves and speak.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Swasti. I'm from the Energy and Resources Institute. I'm a PhD scholar over there. So, we all discussed over here how the new education policy has created many problems in terms of research and research education and funding, and overall how the direction of education will change in India over the few years. But we are one of the things that we should also discuss is that where is this coming from, or why the government has like reduced the funding, or why the government is moving more towards research or education, which is focused more on Indian knowledge systems. Because the overall philosophy of the government, the overall philosophy of the current party is like that, and we also see that there is a lack of pragmatism in the policy making in our country in the last couple of years. Because what I find is that uh, there is lack of people from variety of backgrounds when a policy is being formed. Because when we are talking about society, we are lacking sociologists, or when we are talking about history, we are lacking anthropologists or historians. So these kinds of the lack of these subject experts in policy making is reducing the effective application of that policy. And this has been clearly visible here in national education policy, and as many of you uh, spoke about that. And I found that that lack of various viewpoints for education policy, like how it will affect the society and how it will integrate the society so that the economic and grow and overall well-being of the people can increase, that kind of things are lacking in the national education policy. And also the education policy kind of lacks a view regarding the well-being of the people who are there in education and who are there in research. Because there is no talk about what is happening inside the university apart from research or apart from teaching. Those kinds of things have to be like discussed and talked about in the national education policy, and we should also discuss those things, like what is happening in the university apart from research and education, and how those things are affecting the output of people and output of the researchers and the faculties. So thank you, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Swasti.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Mosina, and I'm a journalist by profession. And apart from that, I have been following NEP and its impact on students since a long time now. So, what I have seen and what I've heard from student educations, they have said when NEP was implemented, put in forth, it was not discussed nor drafted properly. It was just said we are implementing it, and none of the people bothered to hear what educations want, what students want. Is NEP just a way to commercialize, centralize, and privatize, communalize the education and snatch the basic fundamental right of a student? Whether he comes from a good background or from an underprivileged background, it's just a way to snatch their education in a way. What I have seen, like recently when Manaf was discontinued, a lot of researchers discontinued their research. Why? Because of less funds. They couldn't sustain their research. Why government is doing such kind of things? Why? Why they are just denying the rights of people? Why they are just the government should put such schemes in front in force which are very helpful for researchers, for students. But what they are doing, they are just snatching the rights, the education from the people. They just want the students should be uneducated, illiterate in such manner if they are just trying to snatch these kind of things. So they should come up with good things. I will end up with this, that government should come up with such schemes which are very helpful, not that which are not very helpful at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohsina. Is anybody coming?
Yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Achinta Devna. I'm doing my MPhil research on religious studies. So I won't take much time. Oh, I'm from Jadavpur University. The thing is that I didn't even know that I'm going to speak here today. So basically I was not prepared for this. I just want to say is that for research environment is absolutely necessary and for this necessary environment, yes, of course we need this hike for fellowships and monthly fellowship and others. After doing my research in religious studies, what I came to know is that there is no sin but ignorance, and this ignorance is today's very relevant to our studies because we are one of the most neglected community. Depend on today's discussion, I find out that. So what I want to say is that there is no sin but negligence, and negligence is as dark as sin. So we are going towards the darkness. Thank you. Be thinking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chintya. Do we have anybody from the house? If we have no one, since there's no one else speaking in the session, we'll have the concluding speech of the session by Dr. R.K. Das. He's the General Secretary of DRSO. He's a postdoctoral scholar at TIF Hyderabad.
Thanks, Akhil, for inviting me, and thanks all the speakers of this session, all the scholars who participated. By the way, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, all the faculties who send us solidarity messages and who are express their willingness to speak in the convention. We will be listening to the faculties in the second session. So, first of all, I convey my complete support to the resolution that is placed here. And of course, I agree with the spirit and the points that is conveyed so far by the scholars who presented there. There are several points came in the meeting, and I am really happy to learn one thing. Actually, not learn, but experience one thing, that generally when we talk about different issues and when we generally come to a house and speak something, what I experience generally, it is our general experience, is that we talk about the problems I myself is facing and I want to seek solution of that problem. That is, as you can feel, that is somewhat narrow in some sense. That is important because we want to resolve the problems, right? But here, what I find is very inspiring to me is that when I'm seeing the problem I'm facing, I am also connecting the problem with the general problems. I'm really looking deep into it and want to see how it is connected to the policies and how the solution of my problem is related to the solution of the problem as a whole. So that is very important, and I think the convention is already a success in this regard. So many points has come in the meeting, so I did not repeat all those points. That is regarding infrastructure, regarding funding, regarding how they are micromanaging many things, and they are depleting many things at a macroscopic scale that we don't even observe, like software or like papers or like everything which we need for our day-to-day research. How these things are affected by single change in the policy, how the effect of the policy percolates to different level from a very large scale to very small scale. So that is what I find very important. And also what came last is the issues that they are now stopping different fellowships. This is MANF, as you all know recently. Also post-matric and several school and college scholarships have been stopped. And as you know, there is one important point that I think I should emphasize is that see, we are all research scholars, right? I mean, as all have mentioned here, so what we are doing, we are just trying to see where our society or where human knowledge is stuck, and we are trying to develop new knowledge standing on that, right? So as someone mentioned that this is very important thing, that is how a discipline develops. So that is what fundamental knowledge means. It is not only science, right? Science or social science, whatever it be, we have to take a scientific attitude to it. We have to see where you are stuck and what we can do next in a scientific way. We cannot say something arbitrary, this or that, right? Then there is no difference from pseudoscience. So we have to follow a certain method. A method that is not only important for the discipline, but that is also important for the individuals who are pursuing science. For example, when you are thinking about a problem, about some issue, and you want to see how you need to develop it, what you are developing. If you think you are developing your own thought process, and what is the way of developing it? The way of developing it is, that is what we call the scientific method. That you have some idea, you connect the idea with the existing knowledge, and you see that how this can be correct or not. So you always cross verify something, right, before proposing something. So in this process of cross verification, you come out with some kind of solution to it, you propose it, and the rest of the community, it may be wrong, as someone said, it may be wrong, but then the method you proposed or the idea you proposed, there may be some element of truth that can lead you to progress, and someone else can work on that and take you to the right way. It is not you or yourself, so it is the progress of the entire society. So research is just the progress of society. These two are actually indistinguishable, identical. So where things are stuck, so the resolution says it well, and you also says it well. So where we are stuck, we're stuck at many points. But what I find is the most important thing is that we are stuck in realizing our own effort outside academia. So what do we mean by it? So for example, what do a research scholar do? They go to lab, they go to library, they go to a field work, and they try to solve or find some new data, new solution, or whatever, something that gives a specific answer to a specific question, right? And research scholars from hundreds of disciplines, when they are addressing these specific answers, when you add them up, this as a whole takes the knowledge forward in science, in social science, in humanities, and everywhere. So it is bit by bit, it is a collective process, right? So research actually is a collective process. My own research depends on the research of hundreds of years, of hundreds of people, and hundreds of me, like hundreds of people, scholars like me, when we are doing work together, is taking the society ahead as a whole. And then new people come and they take it forward. So this is the way. But now, why we are here in the convention? We are here in the convention because we realize that there is some very serious problem that is posed before us. So this progress, the front, the social front that is progressing, but there are obstacles. So it becomes our duty to fight those obstacles also. Why? Because if our motive is to take society forward, we also have to take concern about all those things which resist that progress. It is not that an academic resistance, it is not that some problem is so difficult, some equation I cannot solve, or some data is very difficult to achieve. It is not only that. The situation is that there is a social obstacle created by the government policies in which I am not really able to pursue, even instead I am willing to pursue, but I cannot. Why? There is financial, there is caste-based obstacle, there is social obstacle, and many other points that is interconnected to one another, and that actually prohibits us to go ahead. And the purpose of this convention is to understand all those things based on the policy, because we know nothing comes from vacuum. So everything has its origin and everything has its solution also. So how do we go ahead? One thing we agreed upon more or less is that the policy is not very beneficial. So already the policy came in 2020, but as you know, DRSO started from 2012, 8 years before. So why DRSO came? It is because the willingness of 2 or 3 people. It came out of a necessity. So the necessity was there all along. And to address the necessity and fight those problems, DRSO came. But as we go ahead, the situation, sometimes some demands we have achieved, as Akhil said earlier. But as a whole, the education and research system, the problems before that has been increased, and these new policies that has taken a huge onslaught on this research sector. So what we feel, what we are really stuck is that we need to really connect our academic work to the organizational activities. We want you to understand that this is actually indistinguishable, that the purpose is one, that we want to solve the problems before research, we want to solve the problems before the society, and we want to take the society forward. The one way is doing our academic work, but another way is to fight the problem. These two are actually indistinguishable and inseparable to each other. So this is why the organization and the movements are important, as you all realize. This is why I believe you are in the convention. And what I said at the beginning, that I am very happy that we who are presenting here are not only talking about myself, but as the community as a whole. So I believe there is a great hope that this convention will take a strong step forward, so that our unity with this purpose, not purposeless unity, but purposeful unity, we can build up and really go more than one step ahead with the struggle to fight all these policies and the problems. So I won't extend much, but I just want to make one small appeal. As you all know that this is about NEP 2020, right? At the same time, the research scholars all over the country, because we are campaigning regarding the policy, and we find that most of the research scholars, they are not really aware. They know there is some NEP 2020 came up. They can see that in IIT Kharagpur, some calendars coming up in the new Indian knowledge system, which is not good. They find that their fellowship got disconnected 6 months, 8 months, they don't get it. In JNU and many universities, they are just non-net fellows, and that is a huge problem. Some fellows get 30, 31,000, 35,000, some getting 5,000, 8,000, and in state universities, they get zero. But all will be PhD scholars, right? So what kind of disparity is this? This cannot go on, right? But how this is connected to the government funding policy? So there is a lack of awareness. Okay. So it is essential that we make ourselves aware about this. We see the connection, and every one of us work as a epicenter, you may say, which of organization. So every one of us need to be an organizer of this scholar movement, so that we become ourselves aware, and we can make others aware and get them together in a single platform, so that the strength of the organization and the struggle against the problems can be amplified. So this is an appeal I want to make before all of you, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Argo. Our session has concluded. We'll break for lunch now. We'll reassemble here at 2 o'clock, where the list of speakers earlier mentioned will speak on different aspects of research and funding about research. So the announcement is that the delegates who have already registered for our volunteers are outside. They lead you to the canteen, and those who haven't registered can. We have the meal coupons, and you can also join us for lunch. So we'll break for lunch now. Thank you. Please be here at 2 o'clock.